In this Roblox beginner series video, we are going to do accessories. Brah, I thought that'd be pretty cool. We're going to make a cheese hat down here, and then this safe that you can carry around so your character can get jacked, right? Get some exercise. Let's go ahead and play this, see what we got. So I'm going to write the code to add the accessory. We are going to make this accessory with the accessory fitting tool, and this one here that just popped off, it's going to go back. Boom. We're going to do that by hand so you know how it's done. And of course, I'm going to show you how to remove accessories. And like you removed the hat and the safe popped off. I thought that was important to know too. A lot of times I don't go into that. So we're going to do it today. Let's go ahead and get started with our accessories video. Now, just as a side note, I provided this game for everybody to be able to open and edit it and get the source code. So if you're having trouble, I will put the link in the description. You go ahead and put that link in the browser, you'll get to this game. And then if you hit these three dots, edit in studio, you'll get a copy of the game. And likewise, today it's going to be lesson 6, but it'll work for all of our beginner series videos, 1 through 8. Let's go ahead and close this down and get a fresh world. This is a fresh world. We're going to start by adding a mesh part to create our cheese hat. Now, mesh parts are parts that are created in something like Blender, which is a free software that a lot of people use, or Tinkercad, and then there's the expensive one, Maya, right? But somebody created it outside the game and brought it in the game. So if we go to Home tab, Toolbox, look under the Creator Store, you will see a section for mesh parts, right? Make sure you select it. I already have it selected, of course. And then I'm going to look for cheese. Right? We get a bunch of cheese. Hey, you can pick any of these. This one already looks like it has a texture ID associated with it. I think I'll keep that. That's what I did in the demo. Just drag it on out. And I'm going to get closer to it. If you go to get a part for an accessory, you should resize it and change any of the color and stuff prior to making it an accessory. Now this one, changing the color is not going to make a difference because we already have a texture ID associated with it down here. Let's pull this out. If we can get it, there we go. All right, so we have that right here. If I copy it and delete it, I'm going to copy it. I do a Control X and delete, just so you see what it looks like without the texture ID, right? And then I just going to paste it back because I like the texture. Sweet. And then the mesh ID, if you get rid of that, Control X, it's just going to look like a part, right? Let's go ahead and do a Control V. Cool. All right, I'm going to make this a little bigger, but I don't know how much bigger. And you can do that when you're making the accessory too, but I like to get it close. So I'm going to Avatar. I'm going to get Rig Builder, and I'll just do R15 my avatar so I can kind of get an idea of how big I want this cheese hat. Yeah, that'll work. All right, I'm going to select it. It just says default. You see this little ball thing here? That is a signal for a mesh part. You can see down here, properties, mesh part, default. Default's the name. Well, we're going to change that. Don't worry. Let's make this bigger, right? So I'll just make it a little bit bigger here. Maybe a little bigger here, a little thicker. Ah, it should be bigger than his head, right? Because it's a cheese hat. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Now let's go to our accessory fitting tool. This little window popped up here, the accessory fitting tool. And now it says, click the mesh part you want to become the accessory. Well, it's default. Boom. And then right here, you can see it. If you pick a base part, you're going to get an invalid selection as of now. That's why I'm going to build the safe backpack by hand. All right, let's hit next. And then we'll make this an accessory. And you should pick the accessory that you want, like the attachment you want. We're going to do a hat attachment. You can move the stuff around by picking a different attachment and giving it the look of a hat, even if you don't select hat. But that's going to mess up other games and your game too. So let's do a next. And now see how it's red like this? This is red. It's because my cheese hat is too big. It's going to fail validation. See, it's poking out. And I guess that's what this little warning is here, the UGC validation. If you want to sell your accessory, you should make it fit in the box. Let's go ahead and do that. So hit scale. I'll shrink that down a little bit. Is that inside? Not quite. There we go. And then over here. Boom. Over here. Did I make it? Is it sticking out the back? It is. Still sticking out the back. There we go. Now it's blue. Blue is good. right? And if you're colorblind, you can look down here too and just make sure that that little sign goes away. If you want to check it with, we should move it up a little bit. It's covering his face. I was getting ahead of myself. Hold on. There, his eyes poke out. See his eyes. You can check it with different models, like the goblin with a cheese hat. Can't go wrong with that. Sweet, that's our goblin. All right, and then if you want to do like animations and stuff, just click down here, animation. See what it looks like when you're doing an animation. So let's go back to our little guy. We've got our animation. Maybe we'll do a little run. Is that a walk? That's a walk. Maybe a run. Godlike. Yeah. Cheese hat's working. All right, let's pause this. And then in the documentation, it suggests that we do generate legacy accessory, but sometimes that pops off the text ID, and I like the text. What is it? Not the mesh ID, the texture ID down here. So I'm going to go with mesh part accessory. We've got too many things helping us here. Mesh part accessory. Here, click over here. Click it. Boom. Sweet. Default has been successfully generated into workspace. Confirm. Close. Let's take a look. All right, default. So our accessory is called default based on the mesh part. We will call it cheese. And if you open cheese, you'll see a handle, right? That's consistent. It has to be spelled that way. If you make them by hand, you got to spell it right. And then under here, the hat attachment. Now the hat attachment, this is clever of Roblox. If you go to a rig, including your character that you're playing, go down to like head, we can see hat attachment. You might have to open head up, right? Hat attachment. These have to be spelled the same. And then when you put the accessory on the character, it's going to match that attachment with that attachment based on the way they're spelled. And it's going to find it. It's going to put it on like a hat. That's cool. That's going to save some time. Now let's group today's stuff in a model called Lesson 6 so you could look it up in that copyable game I showed you earlier. I'm going to right click on the cheese accessory, and then I'm going to group as model. And then this model, I'm going to call Lesson 6. And I'm hoping that that's going to make it easier to look up if you need to. All right, I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to add this accessory to players as they enter the game, and I'm going to use a server script to do it. So I'm going to go to, oops, I don't want to do that. Hit that plus on Lesson 6. I'm going to add a script. Now, I would probably put this in server script service if this was a production game, but it will work here, right? So we can call this something like equip players or something. I think I called it give accessories. Give accessory. How about that? All right, it's going to look something like that in the game, in the downloadable game if you look it up. All right, let's make this a short script just to add a cheese hat when a player comes in the game. So I'm going to get the players service. Local players equal game get service players. I'll add that up top. And then I want to get a copy of my cheese hat, which I would probably put in server storage in a production game, but it will also work here, right, in Lesson 6. I'm going to try to keep this beginner style, right? Cheese hat. And we'll do script dot parent, which is the Lesson 6 model. And then I'm going to go down to, I'll do a wait for child. Should we do a wait for child? Yeah, wait for child. We'll say cheese. And let's do a function, a local function. We'll call that equip players, right? We can put our accessories on here, right? And the players are going to get passed in. And then I'll say player. So I think what I want to do here is capture the character added event, or this is actually even better, the character appearance loaded event, a little harder to spell. This happens slightly after the character added, so you can actually see the character. There's more parts on the character. I like to use this for accessories and tools, but the character added will work, right? It'll work too. All right, so we'll do a colon, and then we're going to connect that event to an anonymous function. So this will get called every time the player enters the game, like when they come back from the death and from dead and stuff like that. We're going to get the humanoid from this character. I just spelled it char because it's easier to spell. We'll say char, wait for child. Whoops, that's a humanoid. And then let's get a copy of our cheese hat, right? So we don't want to use the original because we want to get it to everybody. So let's clone it every time someone needs a hat. So I'll say cheese hat clone equals the cheese hat clone. Cool. And if they die, this will go away unless you parent it to like the workspace or something. But we're just gonna keep it like that. It should be fine. And now we have to actually put the cheese hat clone on the humanoid. Well, we have this handy dandy add accessory method, right? The 2 dots is the method, and then we're just gonna get our cheese hat clone. That's gonna add our cheese hat to the humanoid, and it's going to look at the handle at this attachment, and it's going to say, oh, hat attachment. And then for your character, it'll look through your character, it'll find the appropriate attachment, match them up, right? So you don't have to do any of that. Roblox is going to handle it for you with add accessory. Now, when do we call this? I think what we should do is get our player service when the player is added to the game the first time, not like when they die, it's not the player itself. We are going to connect that to equip players. Whoops. See these 2 extra parentheses? That will cause an error. Get rid of them, right? And then we'll just have that function name. The player will get passed in. We are going to connect our character appearance loaded event. Every time the player dies and comes back, we're going to get this to fire. Let's go ahead and play it. Let's say play. And then we'll go view output. No scary errors. We do have a cheese hat, but we also have our hat. We should take that hat off, right? Let's go ahead and close this or stop the Roblox Studio from playing, and then we'll close our output window, go back to our give accessories, and let's pop off a player's hat if they're already wearing one. Now, removing accessories is a little tricky, right? So we don't have remove accessory for our attachment. We do have remove accessories, which is on the humanoid. It gets rid of all of the accessories. And you can get an accessory list. I'm going to do it slightly different. Like if you have the name of the accessory, that's easy. You could just get the accessory and parent it to something else or destroy it, however. I usually don't use get accessories. I just got used to doing this a while back, and it's practically the same. I'm going to make a function, and I'm going to call this remove accessories. See, the problem is people don't always call their hat a hat, right? It could be cowboy hat. It could be cheese hat. So we don't really know what it's called. So let's make our remove accessory, and let's do it this way, by attachment. So we're going to look for the accessory with a hat attachment, and players and creators can screw you up by using the wrong attachment name. So that could happen. I'm not going to check for it. I'm just going to do error checking for it to make sure it doesn't damage your game when they're playing it. But if they called it something weird, it's not going to remove the accessory, but it won't break your game. So let's get the character that we're removing the accessory from, the attachment name, and then we'll do a little for loop. Let's see, for I and V in, how about char get children, right? I spell that right? Cool. So that's going to get all of the first level objects on the character, in this case, the rig. Look at the pants and the head and all that other stuff, but you can see there's accessories here it's going to get. But we don't want to get all that extra stuff. So what I'll do is I'll say if V, that's the thing, right? This is I is the counter, like 1, 2, 3, 4. V is the thing. We'll say is a accessory. Then, well, the accessory should have a handle, right? So let's say local handle equals V. How about find first child. We'll make sure that we don't have an error if they don't have a handle, right? And then we'll say if handle exists, then let's get the attachment. I'll just call it ATT, and that's going to be on the handle, find, oh my goodness, find first child, attachment name, right? That's the one we're looking for, right? ATT name, right? Make sure that it exists, right? They didn't name it something funny. If they did, we're just going to skip over it. We're not going to handle special cases, but we don't want to error on special cases either. So if ATT exists, then, well, we could destroy it, or we could pop it off and add it to the workspace. I'm going to do that with the safe. So I think for this one, I'm just going to destroy it. So we'll say v:destroy. Sometimes I get these two letters mixed up, but I think I'm good. Destroy. All right, so I'm going to get this right here. Copy, Control C. And then right before I put the accessory on, if you do it after, it's going to knock off the cheese hat and the cowboy hat. In my case, the cowboy hat. I'm going to do remove accessory. The character is fine the way it is. That's the character. But this, I'm going to do, how about hat attachment? Let's get it spelled right. So there's the old cowboy hat for my character on the handle. Hat attachment. So I can click it down here and do a Control C, or I can click it like right here, kind of make it funny, do a Control C to get, oh, I did a Control V. That's all right. Control C, pretend I did Control C, right? Control V. There we go. That should pop off any hats that they're wearing that's using the hat attachment, and not error if somebody goofed up their accessory and made it some other name, right? So let's go ahead and try this. The hat should be gone, right? The cowboy hat is no longer there. And you can do the same with the hair. You just add in the hair attachment. Let's turn this off. Now let's make our safe. And the reason I want to show you this is because if you're using an attachment that's not standard, or if you're using a part that's not a mesh part, like if you make something kind of cool in your game, you can't use the accessory fitting tool. Now the downside is if you make this from scratch, also you have to make sure, if you want to use this on R6 and R15, you got to be sure that the attachment exists for both of the models. The accessory fitting tool does that. So if you're wondering if this works for R6, it does, right? The accessory fitting tool will ensure that all of the attachments are on both of them, right? But let's get an R6. Let's go rig R6, my avatar, and then we could look at, should I call it R6 so we don't get confused? R6. We open this up. Most of the attachments are going to be the same, but a few of them are not going to be the same. You have more body parts, but notice we have our hair attachment. Oh, that's hair attachment, hat attachment, and then torso would be a little different for the backpack, but it'll just be upper torso that you have to worry about. The body back attachment, which is what we're going to use for our backpack, and the body front attachment are all going to be the same, right? So that's consistent between the two if you're using the accessory fitting tool. But if you're doing this by hand, you could get attachments that aren't on both of them. So you just have to check if it's important that it works for both. All right, let's go ahead and make our safe. Let's go look down a little bit. We'll go to the home, and I'm going to make it really simple. Right, there's our part. That's going to be our safe. We don't have to rename it because we'll do that when we make it an accessory. All right, how big should we make this part? Let's go down to size, and maybe I'll make it like, what, 3 by 3 by 3? That's pretty good. It's in the ground. Sweet. And then we'll make it the material. Ooh, let's make the color a little darker. All right, there we go. And then under brick color, and then under material, I'm going to do diamond plate. There we go. That kind of looks like a safe, right? And we need to put this inside an accessory. So I'm going to shrink down this and this and this so we have more room, right? Oh, we get rid of our default cheese. You want to do that? We don't need that anymore, right? We have an accessory. That's our mesh part for our cheese. And get rid of that rig, or close the rig. Lesson 6, we'll keep that open. All right, so under workspace, hit the plus, and then A for accessory. There we go. We got an accessory right here. This is going to be our safe. And now we're going to get that part. I'm going to close it, lesson 6, this part right here. I'm going to move it under the safe. And if you'll remember, in the accessory fitting tool, we need to call this handle. It has to be spelt right? And then on the handle, we are going to get an attachment, AT, attachment. We need to rename that attachment, right? How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to put it on the player's back. So upper torso for our R15, just torso for R6. It doesn't matter. The attachment is called body back attachment on both, right? So this will work on both. Control C. to copy that name so I don't spell it wrong. And I go up here under my safe handle attachment, kind of get that. There we go. Control V. Sweet. All right. Let's line it up. We'll use this guy right here, right? If we look at our rig, let's go to our upper torso. Body back attachment is right there. If we look at our safe, body back attachment is right here. They will overlap when we hit add accessories with a humanoid add accessories. So we need to get that thing positioned so that it matches up here and it fits good. I'm going to hit this with the attachment selected. We're going to only move the attachment. This is a little harder than the fitting tool, right? The attachment's a little trickier. I'm going to move it so that when those two match up, it fits right? And this is pretty easy. And then what we can do is we can check. Let's drag it to our rig. Boom, right? Now, if you want to fit it from here, like let's say I want it to go back a little bit or maybe down a little bit, you have to move the attachment, not the part. Where's my safe? Let's see. Oh, it's on the rig. I'm sorry. Rig and then safe right here, right? So let's open it up. Attachment, and you have to go the opposite direction because remember the attachment is overlapping with our character, so that's not going to move. If you go the opposite direction, you're going to move the handle away from the attachment. So I'm pulling to the right, but my safe is going to the left, right? Let me Control Z that. That might be too much. Just a little bit. Boom. Boom. One more. Control Z. One there. I'm going to stick with that. And then if I want it to drop, I got to pull up on my arrow, right? So it's a little bit difficult, right? It's a little bit more difficult than the fitting tool. There we go. I'm going to stick with that. That's pretty hard. So you guys can play with it if you want. I'm going to get this safe, and now I'm going to drag it to my lesson 6. I'm going to keep everything together, and then I'm going to add the safe to the players as they enter the game. Let's go to our give accessory, and we'll go up to the top. Let's get a reference to our safe, and we put the safe in lesson 6. So we'll do local. Should we just call it safe? Safe is good. Script.parent, wait for child, safe. All right, so now we come down here, right? You could remove any other backpacks on the character by doing this again, right? Control C, maybe you go down here, Control V, and then do like body back attachment right here. That'll pop off any of their backpacks they already have on. But I'm not going to do that. If they have a backpack on, I'm going to leave that backpack on. I do need to make a clone of my safe though. So let's say local, we're going to call it, how about safe clone? And then we're going to get our safe, and then we're going to clone the safe. And now we could get our humanoid add accessory, Control C, Control V, and then just put the safe on there. Boom. And we should be able to play that, and we could see a safe. Nice. That's pretty good. Now let's pop it off and add it again so you know how to do that, right? So let's go to our give accessory, and I think I'm just going to do a delay. Now you could hook this up to buttons. You could hook it up to events, like if they enter a race and the safe pops on because they got penalized or whatever, slow them down. But I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to do a task.delay. And then after 4 seconds of joining the game, I will do a function. And then now I don't have to go through all of this remove accessory by attachment stuff because I already have a reference to the safe, right? So I already know it's a safe. The safe clone.parent, I'll just make the parent the workspace. That's going to pop it right off my character. And then I'll say task.wait. Let's wait 3 seconds and then pop it back on. So you know how to do this stuff, right? So hum, add accessory, safe clone, right? We didn't destroy it, so it's still in the workspace. We're going to take it from the workspace, put it back on the character, right? That's a nice little exercise to know how to do this. Let's hit the play, right? And then we'll do, watch, it'll pop off. Boom. So it pops in front of them just by default. And then it went back on after a couple seconds, right? Let's take a look at view output. Good, nothing red and scary. That's awesome. And now we have another attachment, and we used the base part. We didn't use the mesh part. Alrighty. I will see you in the next video.